Hey, what's up? Um, Apologize for the background there. Um, there's like two topics that I've been very interested in, and I decided to call it gender and genocide. Since about 2015, I've been really interested in this whole idea of gender identity, sex, male versus female, whether there's trans and also non-binary identity. And you know the thing that interests me most about um, that particular topic is the work of Sasha Baron Cohen's cousin, I guess Simon Baron Cohen, and the fact that he found that there was some sort of correlation between gender identity and or rather gender diversity and neurodiversity. That's the most interesting thing I've heard in a long time. That people who are on the spectrum are six times more likely to be gender diverse, or they're simply gay, or they have body dysmorphia, or they've been through trauma. And that kind of makes sense to me because, you know, um, it's something that I don't understand because to me, um, um, I don't know. It just seems to me that there are males and females, and I don't know that you can change that because of your beliefs. But no matter what you think of uh, gender, your views, there seems to be more anger, and I get more of a reaction if I breach that topic than whether we discuss a genocide. You know, because I do know that your gender identity doesn't really matter if you're dead, right? If you committed a genocide and a famine, or even occupying people, um, that in and of itself is just as bad as it can get. And I think we equate these things as if like they're I think they're on different levels. I mean, for me, genocide's on the worst level. There's certain things that are really horrifying, and that's climate catastrophe, nuclear annihilation. If you put away the issues that may lead to our total extinction, I would say genocide is about as bad as it gets beyond that. And it's just amazing how we, the corporate media ignores the genocide, how they both parties kind of support it and lie about it, and you know pretend that it's not happening even though we're funding it. Or some people are like, well, it doesn't really matter because they weren't really they were kind of subhuman anyway. So if you kill people who are subhuman, then there's no big loss. They didn't really understand mathematics, and what did they contribute to science anyway? That's things I've heard by people like David Horowitz, and I think Bill Maher said something like that. That's why I can't watch him ever again, because he's about that deeply frustrating. It's just really hard to believe that we have an overtly white supremacist president in office, and like there's no like real opposition party. And the fact that like I'm very interested in the genocide of the Native American population here in the United States, and also in Australia and Canada and everywhere that it occurred, and the slave trade. I mean, I'm literally a product of the slave trade. I mean, I exist because of the slave trade. I'm one third British or thereabout, one third African from Ghana, I think Sierra Leone, the Congo, Nigeria, and also one third Italian. I'm not sure that the Italians had anything to do with the slave trade, but yeah. So I was just trying to make the point that maybe we need to get our priorities straight and recognize that there's nothing really worse than genocide. Like, you could support people identifying however they want, which is fine, but it's not like killing people, like trying to erase people off the planet, literally. Because people quite often will say, well, if you're transphobic, you're erasing people. But not really. You're not really erasing them. Although, like Ralph Ellison said in Invisible Man, black people were kind of erased. But like with a genocide, they're blowing up the hospitals. They blew up the hospital. They blew up the universities. Killed children. Like half the people were killed in Gaza were kids. And then 2/3 were women and children. And they're just killing them because they feel as though they're inferior. And hey, it's sad to think that, oh, well, maybe some people would have cared about the people in Gaza if they realized maybe they would have been trans. Maybe they would have more value. It's just really sad. Camille Paglia thought that this was kind of like the end of the sign of the demise of the empire, when we are more concerned by our sexual orientation or our sexual identity, and that becomes paramount. She thought that meant we were in the age of decadence. I mean, I don't know. I do think the U.S. empire is kind of nearing collapse, perhaps. Excuse me. But I mean, I'm against genocide. I'm against war. I'm against hitting children. I support the dignity and humanity of all human beings. Even not, I don't exclude trans people. My only issue with trans or non-binary people is that, is really what we call cis women, right? Because I don't think trans women are in any way, or wait, no, trans men are in any way a threat to men. But I mean, I do think you have to weigh the rights of women, biological women, and trans women, or trans women. And do women deserve to have spaces, and bathrooms and sports and all that stuff, exclusive to only women? And to me, that's an issue, but it's not like genocide. It's not like the United States and Israel blowing up a girls' school, right? It would be one thing if they were trying to put boys in the girls' school versus killing them all, just like killing 160 children and leaders, kidnapping the leader of Venezuela and putting him in prison. Human rights violations where people actually get killed. That's my main priority. And even historically, I'd like to revisit a lot of the horrors that have um, you know inflicted on the oppressed peoples, the wretched of the earth, as Frantz Fanon called them. I'm trying to think. I don't really have much more to say about that. I think it's a pretty um, basic point. Gender and genocide. Like, yeah, you can care about gender. You can care about gender issues, but just put it in perspective. Okay, it's not genocide. It's different levels. And sometimes people try to justify genocide because they're saying, well, they would have been transphobic people anyway because they're Muslims, even though a lot of the people were. First of all, I'm not sure that Islam's any worse or better than Christianity or Judaism on being trans, and all of the people who are being exterminated are not Muslims either. So that's another thing. There's Christians, there are Arab Jews, and I just think that human beings have an intrinsic value, and you cannot just exterminate them because you want to, because you want their land and you don't think they're of any value, so you can just kill them. No, it's wrong. And I think we as a country we're gonna have to do much better because this is not good. This is bad. We're headed towards the precipice, our demise.